Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dari Jaya Girivara Dari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Harinam Sankirtan ki jai Jagannath Baldeswara Mai ki jai Shri Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, and to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as another work of fact. Om Agyan Tavaran Dasya Gyanan. So Hare Krishna Prabhu's Matajis, thank you very much for joining. So I'll just share the screen. Today we will discuss two verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. That is 3rd canto, 14th chapter, 47 and 48. 47. Yat prasadat idam vishwam prasidate yadatmakam saswadrik bhagavan yasya toshate ananyaya drisha. Yat prasadat idam vishwam prasidate yadatmakam saswadrik bhagavan yasya toshate ananyaya drisha. The synonyms: yet, by whose, prasadat, mercy of, idam, this, vishwam, universe, prasidati, becomes happy, yet whose, atmakam, because of his omnipotence, saha, he, swadrik, taking special care for his devotees, bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead, yasya, whose, toshyate, becomes pleased, ananyaya, without deviation, drisha, by intelligence. Translation and purport by Divine Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Please hear the translation. Everyone will be pleased with him because the personality of Godhead, the supreme control of the universe, is always satisfied with a devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. Purport. The supreme personality of Godhead is situated everywhere as a super soul, and he can dictate to anyone and everyone as he likes. The would-be grandson of Diti, who was predicted to be a great devotee, would be liked by everyone, even by the enemies of his father, because he would have no other vision besides the supreme personality of Godhead. A pure devotee of the Lord sees the presence of his worshipful Lord everywhere. The Lord reciprocates in such a way for all the living entities in whom the Lord is dwelling as a super soul, also like a pure devotee, because the Lord is present in their hearts and can dictate to them to be friendly to his devotee. There are many instances in history wherein even the most ferocious animal became friendly to a pure devotee of the Lord. We'll recite this next verse, 48th verse. Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahata Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitasaye Niveshya Vaikuntham Kimam Vihasyati Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahata Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitasaye Nivesha Vaikuntamimam Vihasyati. Anybody wants to recite this verse?
Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahata Mahishtaha Pravriddha Bhaktya Hi Anubhavitasaye Niveshya Vaikuntamimam Vihasyati.
Thank you. So, synonyms is Saha, he. Why? Certainly. Mahabhagavataha, the topmost devotee. Mahatma, expanded intelligence. Mahanubhava, expanded influence. Mahatam, of the great souls. Mahishtaha, the greatest. Pravriddha, well matured. Bhaktya, by devotional service. He, certainly. Anubhavita, being situated in the Anubhava stage of ecstasy. Ashaye, in the mind. Niveshya, entering. Vaikuntham, in the spiritual sky. Imam, this material world. Vihasyati, will quit. Translation and purpose by Divine Geshe Prabhupada. Please hear the translation purport. That topmost devotee of the Lord will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence and will be the greatest of the great souls. Due to matured devotional service, he will certainly be situated in transcendental ecstasy and will enter the spiritual sky after quitting this material world. Purport. There are three stages of transcendental development of devotional service, which are technically called Sthai Bhava, Anubhava, and Mahabhava. Continual perfect now of Godhead is called Sthai Bhava. And when it is performed in a particular type of transcendental relationship, it is called Anubhava. But at the stage of Mahabhava is visible amongst the personal pleasure potencies of the Lord. It is understood that the grandson of Diti, namely Prahlad Maharaj, would constantly meditate on the Lord and reiterate his activities. Because he would constantly remain in meditation, he would easily transfer himself to the spiritual world after quitting his material body. Such meditation is still more conveniently performed by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord. This is especially recommended in this age of Kali. Om Gyantimrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sapidamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Supradikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadagamanam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahara Raghunatham Itantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahaganarita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namusute Bhaktakanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yonta Pravishya Mamacha Imam Prasuptam Sanjeevayate Klashakti Dharasvadamnam Nanyam Chahasta Charana Shravanatabhadin Prana Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam So Hare Krishna Prabhu's Matais, thank you very much for joining and keeping up the appointment with Krishna. So hearing Krishna Katha early in the morning is very, very auspicious. And today is a very, very all the more auspicious day because today is the appearance day of Srila Narottama Dasa Thakura. And he was a leading Acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line. And he was only disciple of Sri Lokanatha Goswami. And he helped to bring the books of the Goswamis, 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, from Vrindavana to Bengal and Orissa. And he's written a lot of wonderful bhajans. And one of them is Hari Hari Bifale, which Srila Prabhupada loves very much. Manushya Janama Paya. No, that's a very beautiful bhajan. So we don't have enough time to sing that bhajan now. So anyway, sometimes if you can go through and hear that bhajan, it's very nice. And the meaning of that bhajan is wonderful. So if we are discussing first, we'll discuss the 47th verse. In that verse, the first translation he says, no, Prabhupada, everyone will be pleased with him. So that is very nice. Everyone will be pleased with him. See, in this material world, we find that it is almost impossible to please all the living entities. If some person is satisfied and happy with us, someone else is displeased with us. So the pleasing all the living entities is a very, very challenging task. Everybody will agree with me, right? So, but we find from Srimad Bhagavatam that the pure devotees of the Lord are Sarva Bhuta Anuranjanaha. They know the art of pleasing all the living entities. We see that Srila Narada Muni is respected everywhere. Even the demons are very respectful towards Narada Muni. The 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they are glorified as Dhira Dhira Jana Priyav. Dhira Dhira Jana Priyav. That is Sad Goswami Ashtaka is there, beautiful. The Goswamis are equally dear to the Dhira devotees and Adhira demons. How is it possible? The secret to master the art of pleasing all the living entities is revealed in this 47th verse, where Kashyapa Muni was singing the glories of Prahlad Maharaj, right? So what he says is everyone will be pleased with him because the personality of Godhead, the supreme control of the universe, is always satisfied with the devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. And Srila Prabhupada writes in this wonderful purport in this verse, no? The supreme personality of Godhead is situated everywhere as the super soul. And he can dictate to anyone and everyone as he likes. So the would-be grandson of Diti, who was predicted to be a great devotee, would be liked by everyone, even by the enemies of his father, because he would have no other vision besides the Supreme Personality of God. So this important point to remember is that a devotee, having pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all emanations, automatically pleases everyone. And thus everyone offers him respect and becomes pleased with him. So when the Pandavas, they were in exile in the forest, Duryodhana, in an attempt to trouble them, he sent Durvasa Muni and his followers to go to Pandava's ashram. After Draupadi had finished her meal, she had this Akshapatra, no? So once she finishes, then nothing will come out. So Duryodhana knew that her Akshapatra will not give her food after that, and hence they will be cursed by Durvasa Muni. But since Pandavas, they were unalloyed devotees of the Lord, Krishna helped them. See, when Durvasa Muni came to their ashram, they were all taking the bath, the 10,000 disciples and all. So Draupadi sincerely prayed to the Lord, who appeared before her immediately and requested her to give him food first. She was speechless because she has already finished. She didn't have any food. But Krishna mercifully revealed to her to give a small morsel which was still sticking to the Akshapatra. So when Draupadi gave it to the Lord, he happily honored it. And as soon as he was satisfied, the hunger of Durvasa Muni and all his disciples were also satisfied, and they left the place without asking for any prasadam. So simply by pleasing the Lord, they were able to please their guests without any extraneous endeavor. Yasmin tushte jagat tushtam. This becomes possible when we have ananya drisha, that is having no vision besides the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or not wishing for anything beyond the Lord. Now, since the Lord is a super soul situated in the hearts of all the living entities, a pure devotee of the Lord has no other vision besides the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And on account of this vision, the devotee becomes abhuta shatruhu, that is, without enemies, no enemies. He offers all respects to all the living entities and does not expect respect or honor from others. Very important point to understand. He offers respect to everybody, but does not expect any respect from others or honor. But the Lord is described in this verse, in the 47th verse, as Swadrik. Swadrik, what a wonderful word. See, Prabhupada gives an incomparable and very highly realized equivalent for this word, Swadrik. What is it? As Lord who takes special care for his devotees. What a wonderful meaning. Lord who takes care, that is Swadrik. So hence the Lord very lovingly, he reciprocates by dictating everyone from within the heart of everyone to honor this devotee. So even though such a devotee does not demand respect from others, he commands respect, as it is very wonderfully described in Srimad Bhagavatam verse 4:9-47. The translation says, unto one who has transcendental qualities due to friendly behavior with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities offer honor, just as water automatically flows down by nature. So continuously hearing the transcendental messages of Srimad Bhagavatam and contemplating on these messages, let us develop the Ananya Drishti and thus come under the special care of the Lord. And that is the way to please everyone. And this is the art of pleasing. This is the art of pleasing, which we learn from the devotees. So this is in short of the 47th verse. Now let us go to the 48th verse. When we eagerly endeavor to give Krishna consciousness to others, it results in mutual benefit, both for us and for the hearers. Because whenever we are speaking about Krishna and his instructions and the glorious pastimes of the Lord and his devotees, the first listener is our own mind, and which requires constant hammering on a daily basis. Otherwise, it freaks out and we forget all about bhakti. The real challenge is to influence and inspire our mind as well as others to devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj, one of the Mahabhagavata, is giving us the way for this. So these qualities are very nicely given in this 48th verse, 3:14-48. This verse is spoken by Kashyapa Muni to Diti Mata. Diti Mata becomes sad when she comes to know that her progeny would be demoniac and they would cause disturbance to other living entities, and as a result would be killed by the Supreme Lord. So she wants to know the atonement for her forbidden act of her union with Kashyapa Muni at the wrong time. Now Kashyapa Muni confirms that because of her repentance for her forbidden act and her respectfulness towards him and Lord Shiva, she will be benedicted with exalted grandson Prahlad Maharaj, who will be approved devotee of the Lord. See, Kashyapa Muni was so excited to speak about Prahlad Maharaj's qualities and was able to forecast his appearance. So as a grandfather of Prahlad Maharaj, Kashyapa Muni was so happy to glorify the wonderful qualities of his grandson. So this verse mentions two of the exalted qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, by which he was able to influence all his demonic colleagues in devotional service. One of the words was Maha Anubhava. Maha Anubhava is expanded influence. So the two important qualities are, one, Maha Atma. Prabhupada says expanded intelligence. Then Pravriddha Bhaktya, matured devotional service. So two important qualities which we will discuss and try to meditate upon. So once we develop these two transcendental qualities, that is Maha Atma, expanded intelligence, and Pravriddha Bhaktya, a mature devotional service, and automatically we will be blessed with the power of expanded influence, and our preaching will be effective, and there is no doubt about it. See, this expanded influence quality manifested in Prahlad Maharaj because of his expanded intelligence and mature devotional service, even at the age of very young age of 5 years. So let us see first expanded intelligence, Mahatma. The symptoms of a devotee with expanded intelligence. What are the symptoms? There are 5 of them, which I noted down. First one is he becomes completely fearless, Abhayam. Prahlad Maharaj was one man opposition to his father Hiranyakashipu. Everyone was afraid of Hiranyakashipu, except Prahlad Maharaj. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that just by lifting Hiranyakashipu, his eyebrows, so many wives of demigods had miscarriages. So much afraid there. But Prahlad Maharaj had unflinching faith in the Lord. as given by spiritual master Narada Muni. He was Magna Chittaha, completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And is a perfect example of a perfect Mahabhagavata who was 24 hours Krishna conscious. Now, Prahlad Maharaj was not at all worried about his body and was ready to give up at any time. And therefore, he was fearless and no material things could destroy him. Whereas we are completely disturbed, even for a small disturbance to our material comfort zone. Our sadhana goes out of gear. We become fearful, and immediately out of fear, we react and do counteraction. Whereas Prahlad Maharaj was not disturbed by any material condition. So fearlessness, abhayam, is the first quality required to expand our intelligence. The second, symptom of expanded influence is depend only on Krishna. The second symptom of this expanded influence is that we should never go to anybody else other than Krishna. Even if we have desires, we should go to Krishna. It is better to go to the Supreme Father rather than uncles. It is better to be under the shelter of Guru rather than taking shelter of anybody else. So this is chastity. Prahlad Maharaj was harassed unlimitedly. By whom? By his own father. And if we were in that position, we would have fallen. But Prahlad Maharaj was completely chaste towards the Lord and his spiritual master Narada Muni. The third point, symptom is don't judge parents. The third symptom of expandedness is that we should not think our father and mother are in Maya. Prahlad Maharaj was so much compassionate to his father that he prayed for his father's deliverance. And in fact, whenever the punishment was executed, Prahlad Maharaj would fall at the feet of his father and allow the servants of Hiranyakashipu to execute the punishment. Hiranyakashipu was completely demoniac and against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even then, Prahlad Maharaj never hated his father, but only condemned his way of materialistic life and requested him to take shelter of the Lord. But we just begin to take the process of devotional service, and then immediate mentality is that I have become a devotee and my parents are in Maya. Without the piety of our father and mother, we can never think of entering into the realm of Krishna consciousness. And that we conveniently forget. His Grace Brahmananda Prabhuji, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, was directed by Prabhupada to first of all, fall at the feet of his mother before taking initiation. And that was the mood of Prabhupada. And my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, also always insisted that whether your parents take up to devotional service or not, it does not matter. But you should always respect them and serve them nicely. And he further said, even I am not your first well-wisher. Your parents are your first well-wishers. So always take their blessings. See, even after taking sannyas, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother told him not to leave Jagannath Puri, and for his mother's sake, he never left Puri. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Krishna. And he has shown personally how important it is to respect, obey, and serve our parents. Parents, if they become old and sick physically, then they would require support from their children. And if they don't get it, definitely Krishna would not be pleased by that. Pundarika is a perfect example, wherein he made the Lord and his consort to wait in order to finish his service to his parents. Then Pundarika was eternalized in the scriptures for his services to his father and mother. And Krishna as Lord Vittala was so pleased. The fourth point is, symptom is considering Guru as non-different from Krishna. See, Prahlad Maharaj very wonderfully, while praying to Lord Narasimhadev, in the famous verse 7:9-28 of Bhagavatam, he conveys his heart to the Lord so wonderfully that how he cannot leave the service of his spiritual master. Evam janam nipatitam pravahi kupe kama bikam manuyas prapatan prasangat kritvatmasat surarishena bhagavan grihitah soham katam na visrije Tava Bhritya Seva. What a wonderful translation. See, just hear with. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? What a wonderful purport. Srila Prabhupada, in his transcendental purport to this verse, is worth meditating and contemplating. Prabhupada says, as will be seen in later verses, even though Prahlad Maharaj was directly offered all the benedictions he might have desired, he refused to accept such offerings from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the contrary, he asked the Lord to engage him in the service of his servant, Narada Muni. So this is the symptom of a pure devotee. One should serve the spiritual master first. It is not that one should bypass the spiritual master and decide to serve the Supreme Lord. This is not the principle for a Vaishnava. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj proposed that he engage in the service of Narada Muni. He never proposed that he engage directly in the service of the Lord. So this is the right conclusion. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said, Soham katam na visrije tava bhritya seva. See, look at this statement. How can I give up the service of my spiritual master? How can I give up the service of my spiritual master who has favored me in such a way that I am now able to see you face to face? So Prahlad Maharaj prayed to the Lord that he might continue to engage in the service of the spiritual master. The fifth point is, never get misguided under any circumstances. Prahlad Maharaj's teachers, they were teaching Purusharthas and glorification of his own father instead of the Lord. And he did not follow. But he humbly remembered Narayana and was never misguided. He was determined to the instructions of his spiritual master, even though he was not personally present. Even the spiritual master was not personally present, but he was determined to follow the instructions. So in order to avoid the misguidance, we have to take the resolution in our heart that we will never leave Srila Prabhupada's books anytime. My Guru Maharaj used to say, what we cannot get from Srila Prabhupada, we cannot get it from anywhere. No other person in the history of Vedic literature has written the word-to-word meaning, purports, translations. 100 lives is not enough to read and understand Srila Prabhupada's books. Where is time for other books? So it is important to release the nectar ourselves and also distribute the same to others. By ignoring Prabhupada's books, we are committing suicide. Prabhupada is lovingly taking us to Krishna. So how can we leave him? How much he would have thought about in writing the word Mahatma as expanded intelligence. Nobody could have thought about it. So you have to just appreciate his writings. Just by appreciating the writings of Prabhupada, we will be purified. Want to talk of implementing this purpose in our life. Now let us see the symptoms of Pravriddha Bhaktya, matured devotional service. Mature devotional service, Pravriddha Bhaktya. That is one of the 48th verse which we are discussing. No? This is another mature devotional service. Maturity is a gift. It cannot be cultivated. Gift can be there if you behave good. And if you send person Krishna consciousness, if you are sent person Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will give the gift of maturity. So how to get this gift of maturity for a spiritual master and Krishna? So let us dwell on certain points. Number one, to remember our constitutional position. Prahlad Maharaj always felt insignificant. And by praying to the Lord, correct? He nicely describes his position very clearly. Yeah? So this is his maturity. In his first prayer to Lord Nrsimhadeva, Prahlad Maharaj says in Bhagavatam 7:9-8, how is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of Asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of excellent words, although such persons are very qualified, being the mode of goodness. Then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified. This is what Prahlad Maharaj is telling. Prahlad Maharaj says the word Ugra Jatehe, born in Asuric family, and I am not at all qualified. So this was his mood of devotion. The demon Hiranyakashipu has started the assault on all the demigods. And when the demigod took shelter of the Lord out of fear, the Lord told them to wait. Kalam tavat pratikshataha. But in case of Prahlad Maharaj, so that the Lord told the demigods to wait. But in case of Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Narasimha just appeared immediately for the sake of him. And the Lord was waiting in all the pillars to appear for the sake of Prahlad Maharaj. But still, Prahlad Maharaj was not proud. In a humble mood, he says that he is not at all qualified. So following the footsteps of that great devotee, we should also remember that whatever we are able to do in our life is because of the mercy of Guru and Krishna. We have to understand our constitutional position. What is it? That we are the servant of Krishna. By remembering sober and remembering that we are just servants of Krishna, all the inhibitions, they vanish instantly. Second, 6 vows. The second symptom of mature devotional service is that we take the 6 vows. Well, excuse me. We take the 6 vows, which my Guru Maharaj gave us through this wonderful verse from the Shastras. Nanyam vadami na shrunomi na chintayami, Nanyam smarami na bhajami na chashrayami, Krishnattvadiya charanambuja antarena, Shri Shri Nivasa Purushottama Dehi Dasyam. Prahlad Maharaj was the personification of this verse. And he simply obeyed this verse in his life. So we should take one verse and apply in our lives. And we will all become free from all material inabilities. Nanyam vadami. I will not speak of anything other than Krishna's topics. Na shrunomi. I will not hear any topics other than Krishna's. Na chintayami. I will not meditate on any subject other than Krishna's. Nanyam smarami. I will not think of anybody except Krishna. Na bhajami. I will not worship anyone but Krishna. Na cha ashrayami. I will not take shelter of anyone but Krishna. These are the 6 vows. When we take these 6 vows seriously and try to follow it as much as we can, then we will definitely get lasting peace and bliss in this life itself. It is lack of hearing, speaking, and meditating of the transcendental topics of Krishna that is making us weak spiritually and can go mental. See, we spend a lot of time to talk about our own katha, our own pastimes, but not a few minutes in a day to talk about Krishna katha. So this is the defect we have. We have to work on and take this verse as our life-saving verse. The 6 vows. The third point, we should have firm faith in the Lord and the spiritual master. Prahlad Maharaj heard about the devotional service when he was in the womb of his mother. And he was, so at that time he was not very innocent, right? And he accepted with firm faith. And therefore, he was never deterred in his faith to his spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. See, Hiranyakashipu, he was wonderstruck that in spite of all the ways of annihilating his son, destroying his son, he could not do so. And he asked his son, where from he is deriving such power? Prahlad Maharaj says that his strength is coming from Vaikuntaha, Balame Vaikuntaha, because he had unassailable faith, unflinching faith in the Lord, that the Lord is present everywhere. So, when Hiranyakashipu challenged Prahlad Maharaj, whether the Lord is in this pillar, Prahlad Maharaj had unflinching faith that the Lord is there in that pillar. And in fact, the Lord was omnipresent. He was there in all the pillars of the palace of Hiranyakashipu. Because he doesn't know Hiranyakashipu which pillar he will strike, right? Any pillar was struck by the demon. So he's ready to come out just to keep the words of his devotee, as confirmed in the beautiful verse in Bhagavatam 7, 8, 17, wherein it says, to prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial. In other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. That the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Narasimha Bhagwan ki jai. So presently, our faith is very weak. And anything unfavorable happens in our life, spiritual or material, the first thing we do is we lose faith in chanting and devotional service. And we try all other remedies to remove the unfavorable situations. But Srila Prabhupada gives the formula. He gives the formula to remove the unfavorable situations in a wonderful, unparalleled purport of Bhagavatam 4:29-32. Here, Prabhupada gives us the clue to increase our faith in devotional service. What he says, just listen carefully. One should simply try to develop his Krishna consciousness and not waste his time trying to improve his material condition. Actually, the material condition cannot be improved. The process of improvement means accepting another miserable condition. However, if we endeavor to improve our Krishna consciousness, the distresses of material life will disappear without extraneous endeavor. So this statement of Prabhupada works like magic. And it is up to us to have faith in Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's words are also Satyam Param. And that faith can be obtained by our sincere prayers to the Lord and Srila Prabhupada. The third point, fourth one, completely dependent on the Lord. See, the main reason for the appearance of Lord Narasimhadev is for Prahlad Maharaj, who was completely dependent on the Lord in all circumstances. And thereby he was always fearless. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj was the one-man opposition in the whole kingdom of his father Hiranyakashipu. His father tortured him to death. But because of his dependence on the Lord, he was completely protected by the Lord. See, Prahlad Maharaj's complete absorption in remembering the Supreme Lord, and therefore the material weapons had no tangible effects on him. In the same way, if we try to absorb ourselves in devotional service, the threefold miseries would not have any effect. Because of our absorption in material nature, we are unable to tide over the material miseries, and we get affected all the time. That's why His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, he continued to dictate Srimad Bhagavatam purports with full clarity and absorption, even during his final days. The doctors were wondering how Prabhupada is tolerating the bodily pains. They said that anyone else in this condition should have been in coma or should have been screaming loudly. But nothing could affect the divine consciousness of Srila Prabhupada, who continued serving his spiritual master, Bhagavatam and Krishna, till his last moment. The fifth point, performing devotional service in all material conditions. Now, Prahlad Maharaj, he was completely in an atmosphere which was full of demonic mentalities. Correct? Even in his own gurus, Sanda and Amarka, were teaching everything other than devotional service. Even then, he never deterred from his determination to continue the devotional service. See, even during an atmosphere of demonic qualities and demonic teachers, even at that stage also he was determined to continue devotional service. He was never getting angry about the material condition, but he was simply compassionate to them. And in fact, he started preaching devotional service to the demonic colleagues. And they were inspired by his preaching and influenced by him. He was going through life-threatening situation physically by his own father and the demons. But still he did not budge an inch from devotional service. Our conditions are not as terrible as Prahlad Maharaj. In fact, they are placed by Krishna in a much more favorable situation. But still our mind does not accept devotional service. The defect in us is that we are always cautious about how others look at us and our devotional service. We are always expecting appreciation from others for whatever we do. Hence, always land into trouble. Actually, nobody has any time to look at us, as they themselves are struggling with their own lives. So whatever position we are, it is sanctioned by Krishna. And due to our own defects as a conditioned soul, it is already sanctioned by him. So how can we defy the condition? So therefore, it is very important to perform our devotional service without losing our enthusiasm and confidence. Devotional service is so pure that it can dissolve all our karmic reactions and purify our existence in this material world. Karmani nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhaja. Actually, the devotional service is the unalloyed activity of the soul, and nothing to do with the material conditions. The fifth point, just continue what is the performing devotional service? All material conditions, right? So Srila Prabhupada used to tell a story that one man was sitting near the beach for a long time, and someone asked him, why he is sitting there? The man replied that he wants to have bath in the sea, but was waiting for the waves to settle down. The waves of the sea will never stop. In the same way, material nature will always have the waves of whirlpool coming into our lives. And we should not wait for the waves and whirlpool to stop. That will never happen. And therefore, better to continue with our devotional service with enthusiasm and confidence. The Supreme Lord always wants to elevate the living entities into pure devotional service. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.16.6, when Jaya and Vijaya did not receive the Sanat Kumaras properly, the Lord rushes to meet them and says, see what the Lord says. This verse is spoken by the Supreme Lord himself, Krishna himself. And how much of encouragement and confidence the Lord is giving in this verse. Srila Prabhupada, in his transcendental purport, gives a double booster to this verse. Nowadays we are having boosters, no? Right? He gives a double booster in this verse. He says, anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness is understood to be fully purified. What a wonderful statement. Anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness is understood to be fully purified. He is at least engaged in the process of purification. And if he sticks to the principles of Krishna consciousness, he will very soon be fully purified. The conclusion is that if one takes to Krishna consciousness with all seriousness, he is to be understood as already purified. And Krishna is ready to give him protection by all means. What a wonderful purpose. This is really booster verse. The sixth point, cleaning the home and hearts. If we carefully look at our house, 50% of the items are unwanted, but we keep it as a necessity. We keep accumulating so much waste on the pretext that will be of some use sometime later. Instead, we should do regular cleaning and throw away all the waste. This is the day-to-day activities we do, no? Daily morning we clean. So how much dirt is there in our hearts? So every day we have to clean our hearts. Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, everything is there. So you can just by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is the way of cleaning our dirt every day. It's not that one day you chant, if you forget about it, you are cleansed. No, every day. The mirror also becomes very dusty, no? We have to clean every day, right? Seventh point, allowing Krishna to enter our lives. We have to realize that Krishna is the only purifying force in our lives. And we should be ready to allow Krishna to enter into our lives. Unless we clean, how can he enter? In the altar, before you keep the deity or the photo, you make it clean, no? Make it clean, very clear. All the decorations wonderfully you do, right? Then you put. So how can Krishna come into our hearts so easily? So you have to cleanse it. So you have to realize that Krishna is the only purifying force in our lives. And we should be ready to allow Krishna to enter into our lives. Our greatest defect is that we don't allow Krishna to enter our lives, into our lives. And instead, Everything else other than Krishna enters our lives, and therefore we always remain immature in devotional service. There is no maturity. Once we allow Krishna to enter our lives, what happens? Our health improves because of transcendental purity of Krishna. And the gift of maturity will be showered by Krishna through his mercy. See, allowing Krishna means in every transaction of our lives, we should try to put Krishna as the final deciding authority. And we have to be, honestly, we should have to introspect that if I act in this way, will it please Krishna and Guru? If it is not, then we should not act in that way. Next point, sensing of Lord's presence everywhere. Sensing Lord's presence everywhere. See, as we become mature in devotional service, our awareness of Krishna everywhere must increase. We should be clear, very clear in our conscious, that photo of Krishna and the deities are not different. And above all, the devotees of the Lord are also important. See, in the name of deity worship, if we ignore the genuine requirements of the devotees, then our deity worship has no value. Our behavior should be very nice. See, in the name of serving our deities, we tend to disrespect the feeling of other devotees. And Krishna is not at all pleased by such behavior. So we should sense the Lord's presence everywhere. Another point is, shouting and screaming will spoil our maturity. Shouting and screaming. In adverse situations, when things are not happening in our way, we tend to shout and scream. This is not maturity. We have to understand that Krishna is under control and we cannot do anything to change the way we want. We have to accept that the things which are happening in our lives is already approved and sanctioned by the Lord. It is due to anger that we shout and scream at others. Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that envy and hatred are the two causes of anger which leads to shouting and screaming. Envy and hatred. We envy somebody and therefore cannot tolerate their progress. And we try to find every opportunity to put that person down. If we hate the living entities, then we simply become angry with them for whatever they do. And this spoils our maturity and we glide down. We should try to be cool and calm in trying circumstances, as this can only lead us to maturity. See, even the Lord instructs the demigods by the churning of the Milky Ocean to keep truce with demons, and instructs a wonderful verse that how to do things by peace and patience. When there is a clash between demigods and demons while churning the milk ocean, the Lord advises the demigods in Srimad Bhagavatam 8:6-24. He says, my dear demigods, with patience and peace, everything can be done. See what Krishna says. He says to demigods, with patience and peace, everything can be done. But if one is agitated and by anger, the goal is not achieved. Therefore, whatever the demons ask, agree to their proposal. So this is patience. So two words, patience and peace, very, very important. We should never get agitated by anger. And the other point is, we should envisaging the death. So this is the most difficult aspect of maturity. And this will definitely make us saner in our dealings with everybody. The Guru Maharaj used to say, every day should be envisaged as the last day. Then we will never commit blunders in our relationship. This is not easy aspect of maturity. And it flows only through the mercy of Guru, pure devotees, and Krishna. See, Prabhupada, he was on the deathbed, and still his Krishna consciousness was completely perfect. And he was able to dictate purpose to Srimad Bhagavatam. And those purposes are really wonderful and purifying our consciousness. There is one word, expanded influence, Maha Anubhava. The natural result of expanded intelligence would give the next quality, expanded influence. Prahlad Maharaj had the expanded intelligence, and so he was able to influence all the demonic friends to become devotees of the Lord. This was simply because he was completely absorbed in devotion and tolerated all the demonic nature of his friends. Our surroundings are like that, full demonic attitudes, right? So we should be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So by his expanded intelligence and unflinching devotion, he was able to influence all the demons to become devotees. So Prahlad Maharaj is teaching us how to speak to people so that they will be inspired and become devotees. So Srila Prabhupada, he went to the Western world at a later age, where there was full of demonic civilization. But because of his purity, complete absorption, Magna Chittaha, and expanded intelligence of costless compassion and mercy, Srila Prabhupada was able to convert the Maya kingdom to spiritual kingdom. So because of narrow intelligence, Kripana Buddhi, we reject our own father and mother and relatives as Maya, even though they are pious. So there is no potency of influencing our own self. And where is the question of influencing other living entities? It does not mean that we change our consciousness to their consciousness, but we influence them by our own purity and absorption and behavior. So this is what Prahlad Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and all the Acharyas did. Nityananda Prabhu tolerated Jagai and Madai, and they became devotees because of expanded intelligence and expanded influence. So these are the points which we discussed in the 48th verse, that is expanded intelligence, maturity in devotional service, and expanded influence. And before the 47th verse, the heart of pleasing, so from Prahlad Maharaj, the great grandson of Kashyapa Muni, Prahlad Maharaj, he was so happy to discuss. So when we speak about the Lord, Krishna, Prabhupada, and all the pure devotees, we also become absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And thereby, we will be able to please everyone. The art of pleasing is to please Krishna, and automatically everybody else will be pleased. Because in the 15th chapter, Bhagavad Gita says, what is the root of the tree? Not the branches and the leaves, right? When you water the root, the whole tree gets nourished. Same way, if you eat, the stomach is fulfilled. If you eat, the stomach is satisfied, the whole body is satisfied. So from this, we can understand we should expand our intelligence. Everybody has intelligence. We have to expand our intelligence. So what are the symptoms that we just discussed today? So we hope we can take lessons from these and put into practice so that our life will be completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and we can even, by our behavior, people will be inspired to take up Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much, Guru Mataji, for giving me the opportunity. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpaturubhi kripa sindhu bhayeva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. If anybody wants to share anything or can do, otherwise we'll stop here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for
Hare Krishna.
highlighting the points about being a devotee. I'm going to write it down, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If you have anything nothing else to be shared, or then please you can stop here. Or if you want to share anything which you feel is a takeaway for you, so that you can put into practice right from today.
Prabhuji, what was the first point you explained, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
What was the first point you explained about devotional service?
So see, Prabhu, first was the art of pleasing, right?
Art of pleasing.
Then the art of pleasing, how to please others. Prahlad Maharaj is teaching us. And then, of course, the symptoms of expanded intelligence and the symptoms of mature devotional service. So various points were there, how we can go. Especially the one thing I very much like is the 6 vows. Nanyam Shrinami, I will not speak anything other than Krishna. I will not think about anything other than Krishna. These 6 vows are very wonderful. If we just put this in our lives, our whole life will be full of peace and happiness. Because without peace, we can never get happiness.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Shubha. Hare Krishna. Yes. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Mulani Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Raja Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very
Prabhuji.
much, Prabhu Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you. We can stop here, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
There are no doubts, we can end. Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. I think. Thank you, Shanta Gaudam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Pallavi Mataji. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Take care,
Prabhuji.
be safe. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Very nice class, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Devotees.
Shanta Gaudam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.